The Palestinian-Israeli conflict, a complex and enduring struggle over land, identity and justice that shapes the past, present and future of the region. This is the West Bank Wall, which was constructed by the Israelis to prevent Palestinians enter their territory. On either side of the wall lies a stark contrast. One side is marked by devastation, while the other showcases modern and sophisticated construction. In any civilized society, it is unimaginable for a guest to enter someone's house, take over the property and begin oppressing the hosts, including their children, women and elderly. In 1948, the United Nations approved the creation of Israel in the land of Palestine, dividing it into two states. What followed was a catastrophe. 750,000 Palestinians were forced from their homes. Palestinians call it Nakba, the tragedy of death, displacement, loss, and destruction. Villages were raided, families torn apart, and the Palestinian people became refugees in their own land. In 1967, Israel launched a preemptive strike occupying the West Bank, Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced once again. Israel claimed more land and Palestinians faced further dehumanization. Living under military rule, the city of Jerusalem, once the heart of Palestinian heritage, was divided and the holy sites desecrated. In 1987, the Palestinian people, driven to desperation by decades of oppression, rose up in the first Intifada. They fought with nothing but stones against one of the most powerful military forces in the world. The world saw their determination, but Israel responded with brutal force, imprisoning thousands and killing hundreds. The world watched, yet their cries for justice were ignored. The 1993 Oslo Accords promised peace and a separate Palestinian state, but these promises were never fulfilled. Instead, Israeli settlement expansion in the West Bank continued, deepening the occupation and leaving Palestinians imprisoned in their own land. The failure of Oslo, the continued expansion of settlement and the brutal repression led to the Second Intifada. For 5 years, Palestinians faced even more violence. Israeli military airstrikes, tank assault, and the building of the West Bank Wall shattered their lives. Thousands of Palestinians were killed or imprisoned. Their dreams of freedom were buried under the rubble. In 2018, the Great Return March began. Palestinians in Gaza marched for the right to return to the land they were exiled from in 1948. They gathered peacefully at the border, but Israel responded with a sniper fire, killing more than 200 of unarmed protesters. The world condemned the violence, but nothing changed. Palestinian desire for freedom and return remains. During the month of Ramadan 2021, Israeli forces attacked Masjid al-Aqsa, disrupting prayers, damaging the mosque and killing some worshippers. Protests erupted across Palestine from Gaza to the West Bank, but the international community failed to hold Israel accountable. The lack of support from the international community led to the rise of resistance groups, with Hamas being a prominent name. Hamas was established on December 10, 1987, and has since produced numerous leaders in the fight for Palestinian rights, with Yahya Sinwar being one of the most notable. Born in 1962 in Khan Yunis refugee camp, Yahya Sinwar was the son of a family displaced during the 1948 Nakba. His parents were from Ascalon, a city in Palestine which is now under siege of Israel and very near to Gaza. Growing up near Gaza fueled his desire to return to his homeland and fight for Palestinian independence. In the 1980s, he joined Hamas and was arrested in 1989, sentenced to 6 months in prison for his involvement in resistance activities. In 1988, he was sentenced to life for his commitment to his people's cause. While in Israeli prison, he learned Hebrew, studied law, wrote poetry, and organized prisoners' strikes. In 2004, Yahya Sinwar showed symptoms like collapsing during prayers, neck pain, and losing consciousness. A prison dentist, Yuval Witten, suspected a brain issue and urged immediate hospitalization. At Soroka Medical Center, surgeon removed a life-threatening brain tumor. Days later, Sinwar recovered in the hospital, asked his Muslim guard to thank the dentist and explain the importance of his life-saving act in Islam. After spending around 22 years in prison, he was released in 2011 as part of a prisoner swap. In 2017, Sinwar became the Hamas Gaza chief, where he focused on creating a unified Palestinian state encompassing Gaza, the West Bank, and all other Palestinian territories. The intense propaganda by Western media made it challenging for Hamas to secure widespread support, leading many Muslim countries to withdraw their backing. However, Yahya Sinwar managed to gain support from nations like Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, which endorsed Hamas in its struggle for freedom in the disputed territory of Palestine. Over the last 2 years, Israeli violence against Palestinians has sharply escalated. In May 2022, journalist Shiri Abu Akhli was killed by Israeli forces while reporting in Jenin, symbolizing the targeting of Palestinian voices. In January 2023, a deadly Israeli raid on the Jenin refugee camp caused widespread loss and displacement. In May 2023, Israel's Operation Shield and Arrow began, sparked by unrest following the death of Khadir Adnan, a Palestinian prisoner on hunger strike, which led to intensified military raids in the West Bank, particularly in Jenin and Nablus. August saw airstrikes on Gaza killing civilians, while September protests erupted in cities like Hebron and Ramallah amid rising settler violence. By October 7, 2023, over 250 Palestinians had been killed. These are not isolated incidents. They were part of a larger, year-long build-up to the inevitable explosion of resistance. On October 7, 2023, after 76 years of relentless oppression, resistance took a new form. Hamas responded to the years of suffering, and a new chapter in the struggle for freedom began. And for the first time, they broke through the iron wall, overcoming all security barriers and entering deep into the occupied territory. The Israelis may call it terrorism, but for the world, it is the struggle for liberation. Every act of resistance is born from the desire for justice, freedom, and an end to the occupation. After October 7, a wave of oppression struck Palestine and Hamas, claiming over 42,000 lives, including women and children. More than 1 lakh people were displaced. Amid these challenges, Yahya Sinwar emerged as a true leader, leading from the front and living up to his words, fought until his last breath. Despite losing an arm in his final moments, he continued to resist with unwavering determination. Even the Israeli army, fearing his defiance, chose to bomb the house where he was sheltering, rather than confronting him directly. After 3 days of hunger and thirst, Sinwar embraced martyrdom, departing this world with unmatched bravery. He left behind a legacy of courage and resistance that future generations will remember. The words of Yahya Sinwar in his will would always haunt his murderers and would always be a source of inspiration for his followers.
I am Yahya, the son of a refugee who turned exile into a temporary homeland and transformed a dream into an eternal battle. Be a thorn in their throat, a flood that knows no retreat, and do not rest until the world acknowledges that we are the rightful owners and that we are not just a number in the news.